Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. And today's record is River Deep, Mountain High. As is the recurring theme here, Ike and Tina Turner, obviously huge names in the history of music, and Tina Turner continues to be after they split up. I mean, I've always vaguely have the sense that they were a huge deal. I mean, they were early-ish, I think it was 1991 inductees to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When I was a teenager, I got this souvenir ruler in my stocking. It's part of this series of souvenir rulers that lists rulers of a field. So this one is rock and roll. And it starts with Fats Domino, Ain't That a Shame? And it runs until 1984 with Tina Turner's What's Love Got to Do with Anything? That said, I just feel like just going through the world, I haven't necessarily been exposed to that much Ike and Tina Turner, and other than What's Love Got to Do with It, no solo Tina Turner either. They're like both talked about as these huge names, yet none of their songs seem to be innocuously part of the culture. So I realized I have to make a conscious effort to seek out one of these records. I saw that River Deep and Mountain High counts as one of the important ones. I believe it's preserved by Congress as having historical significance, and this one was available at my local library. So I got out a copy, and to be honest, I think it was kind of a weird experience. I also got out an Ike and Tina Turner Greatest Hits CD, and it didn't sound very much like this one at all. That said, I could tell why this was an iconic album. So I don't know if this was a great introduction to the sound of Ike and Tina Turner, but it was certainly a memorable listening experience. So the title track of this record, River Deep, Mountain High, was a real shocker when I listened to that. And I mean that in like the most emotionally complete way. The first time I listened to it, it was off-putting shocking. But by the second time I listened to it, once I had some sense of what to expect, I'm like, wow, this is a really distinct and a really cool song. I think part of the reason it was such a cool experience is that my expectations were implicitly that it was going to be the same song as Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't No Valley Low Enough, Ain't No River Wide Enough, you know, this title being River Deep and Mountain High. But while I guess they're conceptually similar in that they use similar metaphors, the execution is very fundamentally different. You know, that first song I cited is just a very sweet love duet, whereas this is an intense performance, as if Tina Turner, as she's singing, is really living those metaphors, really walking through mucky waters and struggling up mountains. And so she comes out screaming that she's coming closer every day. The instrumentation on this one is also really unusual in that it's orchestral, but you wouldn't call it lush or rich or beautiful. It creates this frantic kind of muddy sound. This song is written by the iconic duo of Jeff Berry and Ellie Greenwich, who helped launch Neil Diamond's career. And it sort of reminds me of the production of some of those early Neil Diamond songs, which were kind of orchestral, kind of not. But I guess the fundamental reason why the song has such an over-the-top sound is its producer, Phil Spector, famous for the wall of sound effect. So this album goes back and forth between being produced by Phil Spector and by Ike Turner. And I guess that was the other surprise of listening to this. When you see a name like Ike and Tina Turner, you expect, oh, this is going to be a duets group. You're going to hear him singing just as much as her. But he basically doesn't sing at all. I mean, Ike Turner started out as a band leader. He was behind what's many people call the first rock song, Rocket 88. But I don't think, contrary to what I thought before, he's even the singer on that song. He's a guitar player, a piano player, and a band leader. So in some ways, listening to an Ike and Tina Turner record isn't any different than listening to a Tina Turner solo record. Or at least I think. Again, I haven't listened to any Tina Turner solo records. But going back on topic, the songs on this album go back and forth between being produced by Phil Spector and being produced by Ike Turner. And the Phil Spector songs obviously sound over the top. The Ike Turner songs sound a bit more normal. And that's the case with track 2, I Idolize You. That said, it's, you know, certainly an eccentric song in its own way. Firstly, the fact that it's mostly a normal love song, but it frames that love as I idolize you. And beyond that, it's performed in a minor key. And with Tina Turner's harsh vocals, she kind of comes off sounding like screaming Jay Hawkins. So it's a haunting song, even if it's a lot more normal than River Deep, Mountain High. Track number 5, written by the iconic Motown songwriting team of Dozier Holland, is also produced by Phil Spector. So again, it comes across sounding very over the top. A bunch of these Phil Spector songs sound kind of Christmassy thanks to their jingly sound. That may or may not be a bad thing. It makes them come across as interesting novelties rather than a song you can easily imagine performing yourself lots of your time. That said, where the Phil Spector production does work is on the choruses. He gives these simple words the most possible emotional intensity. The chorus goes, "'Cause a love like yours don't come a knock, knock, knocking every day." And Spector really makes it sound like Tina Turner's voice is knocking at the door. Track number 4 is called "A Fool in Love." This one is written by Ike Turner and produced by Ike Turner. And again, more of a straightforward rock and roll number. In this context, Tina Turner's voice kind of sounds like James Brown. Track number 5 is "Made 'Em Wait." This song is produced by Ike Turner, and it has a nice, thick production, kind of similar to the Phil Spector songs. But because it's Ike and not Phil Spector, it doesn't end up sounding, as over the top. The lyrics are certainly the product of their time. They're like, boys only one thing, but I'm a good girl and I'm going to stay pure. I'm going to, make them wait. But it's certainly a very catchy song and charming in that dated way. Track number 5 is called "Hold On Baby." This one is again written by Jeff Berry and Ellie Greenwich and produced by Phil Spector. And to a lesser extent than "River Deep, Mountain High," it ends up straddling this weird ground between being a kind of normal love song and being kind of weird. There's a ghastly backup vocal in the background. There's Phil Spector's Christmassy production, and it does little bits of key shifts between major and minor in places where you wouldn't really suspect. Lyrically, it's just about a couple trying to break up, but it's delivered more like it's a speech at a rally. It's a weird song, but it's a low-key weird song. Track number 7, which I believe is only on this CD release and not on the original record, is called "I'll Never Need More Than This." And it's a similar vibe. Again, it's a Barry Greenwich composition, Phil Spector producing, and it's all those things I said of track 6, but even more. Phil Spector brings in a kind of wedding bell sound into the background of it. There's lots of vocal in the singing, so it's, basically a normal love song, except something about it is not quite right, especially the way, again, that shift between major and minor keys is done. You can make a fairly poppy, innocent sounding song like Del Shannon's "Runaway" that shifts between major and minor, but this one hauntingly, it layers minor sounds over major sounds. So it sort of creates that there's a ghost in the background kind of feel to it. Track number 8 is one of the great 1960s classics, "Save the Last Dance for Me," but it's again produced by Phil Spector. So for better or for worse, he makes it sound very over the top, and it almost comes across as if the dancer, it's not just a member of a young couple, but it's like a ballerina in a music box. There's something very haunting about the performance. Track number 9 is called "Oh Baby, Things Ain't What They Used to Be." It's an Ike Turner song, so more conventional production. I do like the way the horns sound on it. Track number 10 is called "Every Day I Have to Cry Some," which again brings back Phil Spector's intense production. This was a funny one for me to listen to because I thought I recognized it. And then I realized it's because I've listened a lot to the French singer Claude François. And the weird thing with like French singers, at least in the 60s and 70s, and maybe they continue to do this, is they would often just take the melodies of American songs, and sometimes they would sing translations of those English language songs, and sometimes they just take the melody and sing completely different lyrics over it. So the French song is "Chaque jour c'est la même chose," every day it's the same thing. But this one is "Every Day I Have to Cry Someone," and it seems to be about someone who feels like they can't be with their love because their love doesn't have enough money, and poor people have to be practical and marry in ways that help them financially. It's kind of a weird song because the lyrics are very simple, so it doesn't sound like it's supposed to be taken that seriously, yet the subject matter is quite serious. So I can't tell, it's a serious song engaging with the way socioeconomic class affects marriage choices, or is it just a meaningless pop song? It's right on that cusp. It's hard to tell. The last 2 tracks on the album are by Ike Turner. They're called "Such a Fool for You" and "It's Gonna Work Out Fine." "Such a Fool for You" is a solid, upbeat, decently produced song, and "It's Gonna Work Out Fine" is a little weirder than some of the other Ike productions. And maybe it was that I was listening with bad headphones, but Tina's voice is definitely a bit lower in the mix. So it almost sounded like it was just her singing backup over an instrumental conclusion, like it was a song without a true lead singer. That was less exaggerated when I listened to it on a CD player as opposed to on a Discman, but I still heard it a little bit. So yeah, the gist of this record is that it's strange, and it's strange because you don't expect it to be strange. The songs, if looked at the surface, are basically just pop love songs, but there's something about the production, especially when Phil Spector does the production, that is just a bit off, that's just a bit haunting. And I mean, I don't know if I partly project that onto that because I know about the dark turns that both Phil Spector and Ike Turner's lives took, the fact that Tina Turner had to go out on their own, or no, there is just something inherent about Phil Spector's production where he was making sort of normal pop music, but felt like he was secretly doing something genius on top of that. You know, you'll think you're just listening to a love song, but it's actually a song set in a haunted house. I don't know, but a very interesting record. And I'll certainly look forward to the opportunity to listen to Ike and Tina Turner and solo Tina Turner, and I guess if it's out there, solo Ike Turner in future, because again, these are huge names in the history of rock and roll, but their actual individual songs feel like they've largely fallen into obscurity, and it would be cool to rediscover those songs again. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.